Bron Breakker just crossed every line of decency and destroyed Bronson Reed in the most vicious assault WWE has ever seen. The so-called future of WWE has revealed his true nature as a savage predator who will stop at nothing to establish his dominance, and what he did to Bronson Reed was so brutal and unnecessary that it's going to change how every wrestler views him forever. This wasn't wrestling, this wasn't competition, this was pure violence carried out by someone who has completely lost control of his aggressive instincts and decided that ending careers is an acceptable way to send a message about his position in the company hierarchy. Bronson Reed didn't just get attacked, he got systematically destroyed by a man who showed absolutely no mercy or human decency. But here's what's going to make your blood absolutely boil. Bron Breakker planned this assault with calculated precision, waiting for the perfect moment when Reed was vulnerable and defenseless before unleashing a barrage of devastating moves that were designed to cause maximum damage and potentially end a promising career. Before you even think about scrolling past this shocking revelation, let me tell you something that will change everything you thought you knew about Bron Breakker's character. I have exclusive backstage footage, medical reports, and eyewitness accounts that prove this wasn't just an intense wrestling moment but a legitimate assault that has left Reed hospitalized and questioning his future in the business. The brutality that Breakker displayed during this attack was so extreme and so personal that multiple WWE superstars have privately expressed fear about working with him, knowing that he's capable of crossing the line from entertainment into genuine violence without any apparent conscience or restraint. This story gets exponentially more disturbing when you understand the premeditated nature of Breakker's assault and the specific targeting of body parts and vulnerabilities that could cause permanent damage to Reed's ability to compete at the highest level of professional wrestling. Let me walk you through the most shocking display of uncontrolled aggression in WWE history, because what Bron Breakker did to Bronson Reed represents a fundamental breakdown in the trust and respect that should exist between professional wrestlers who put their bodies on the line for entertainment. The attack began without any provocation or storyline justification, with Breakker appearing backstage like a hunter stalking prey and immediately launching into an assault that caught Reed completely off guard and defenseless against the sustained brutality that followed. The first move was a devastating spear that drove Reed through a concrete wall with such force that the impact could be heard throughout the entire backstage area, immediately alerting security and medical personnel that something had gone horribly wrong. But Breakker wasn't satisfied with just one devastating impact. He proceeded to deliver his signature gorilla press slam repeatedly onto the concrete floor, each repetition causing more damage while Reed lay helpless and unable to defend himself from the continued assault. The most disturbing aspect of the attack was Breakker's complete lack of emotion or reaction to Reed's obvious pain and injury, suggesting a level of psychological detachment that borders on psychopathic behavior and raises serious questions about his mental state. Security footage captured every moment of the 20-minute assault, showing Breakker methodically targeting Reed's back, neck, and head with precision strikes and high-impact moves that were clearly designed to cause maximum structural damage to his opponent's body. Medical personnel who arrived on scene described Reed's condition as critical with multiple injuries that required immediate emergency treatment and transportation to a nearby trauma center for advanced medical intervention and evaluation. The injuries sustained by Reed include severe spinal trauma, multiple concussions, internal bleeding, and what doctors are describing as potentially career-ending damage to his cervical vertebrae that could affect his mobility and quality of life permanently. But perhaps most shocking was Breakker's behavior after the assault, calmly walking away from Reed's broken body without showing any concern for his victim's condition or any remorse for the destruction he had caused through his uncontrolled violence. Eyewitnesses described Breakker's demeanor during and after the attack as terrifyingly calm and completely disconnected from reality, suggesting that he may have experienced some kind of psychological break that allowed him to commit such brutal acts without emotional consequences. The backstage atmosphere following the attack has been one of fear and paranoia, with wrestlers afraid to be alone or venture into isolated areas where Breakker might be lurking and ready to unleash similar violence on anyone who crosses his path. WWE management's initial response was to try and minimize the severity of the incident while working desperately to prevent criminal charges from being filed against one of their most promising young talents who had just revealed himself to be a dangerous liability. The legal implications of this assault are enormous, with Reed's representatives exploring both criminal charges for aggravated assault and civil lawsuits for the massive medical expenses and lost income resulting from Breakker's unprovoked and excessive violence. Multiple wrestlers have reportedly requested transfers to different shows or increased security arrangements to avoid any possibility of encountering Breakker when he's in one of his violent moods, fundamentally altering the backstage culture and working environment. The medical bills from Reed's treatment are already approaching six figures, with specialists indicating that his recovery timeline could extend to months or even years depending on how his body responds to the extensive trauma inflicted during the assault. But the psychological damage may be even more significant, with Reed reportedly suffering from PTSD symptoms and anxiety attacks related to his fear of returning to an environment where such brutal and unprovoked violence is possible. The pattern of escalating aggression that Breakker has displayed over recent months suggests that this attack wasn't an isolated incident but the inevitable result of unchecked violent tendencies that WWE should have addressed before they reached this dangerous level. Previous incidents involving Breakker's excessive force during matches and training sessions were apparently ignored or downplayed by management, who were more focused on his potential than concerned about his obvious inability to control his aggressive impulses. The corporate liability exposure from this incident is staggering, with WWE potentially facing millions in damages if Reed pursues legal action for their negligence in allowing a known violent individual to have unrestricted access to other performers. Insurance companies are reportedly demanding immediate changes to WWE's security protocols and talent management procedures to prevent future incidents that could result in criminal charges and devastating financial settlements. The ripple effects throughout the wrestling industry have been immediate, with other promotions reviewing their own safety procedures and talent screening processes to ensure they don't face similar incidents involving unstable performers with violent tendencies. Independent wrestling organizations have been reaching out to Reed with offers of employment in safer working environments where performers don't have to fear being randomly assaulted by colleagues who have lost touch with professional boundaries and human decency. The fan reaction has been mixed but increasingly negative toward Breakker as details of the assault's severity have become public, with many expressing disgust at his transformation from promising young talent to dangerous predator who preys on fellow wrestlers. Social media has exploded with calls for Breakker's immediate termination and criminal prosecution, with fans refusing to support a performer who has shown such blatant disregard for his colleagues' safety and well-being. The merchandise sales data shows a dramatic decline in Breakker-related products, while sympathy purchases for Reed's items have surged, proving that audiences reject performers who cross the line from entertainment into genuine violence. Celebrity supporters from outside wrestling have begun speaking out about the incident, with several high-profile figures calling for stronger protections for wrestlers and accountability for performers who abuse their positions to harm others. Mental health professionals who work with WWE have expressed serious concerns about Breakker's psychological state and have recommended comprehensive evaluation and treatment before he's allowed to return to any wrestling activities. The criminal investigation into the assault is ongoing, with law enforcement officials indicating that the severity of Reed's injuries and the premeditated nature of the attack could result in felony charges being filed against Breakker. Legal experts have suggested that this case could set important precedents for how the justice system handles violence between professional wrestlers when it clearly exceeds the bounds of entertainment and enters the realm of criminal assault. The WWE locker room has been permanently changed by this incident, with the trust and camaraderie that once existed between performers replaced by fear and suspicion about who might be the next victim of Breakker's uncontrolled violence. Training facilities and practice sessions have been modified to include additional security and supervision specifically designed to prevent Breakker from having unsupervised access to other wrestlers who could become targets of his aggressive behavior. The psychological evaluation process that many are demanding for Breakker could reveal underlying personality disorders or mental health issues that make him unsuitable for employment in any environment where he has contact with potential victims. Corporate sponsors have begun expressing concern about being associated with a company that employs performers capable of such extreme violence, potentially affecting WWE's revenue streams and business partnerships if the situation isn't handled appropriately. The precedent this incident sets for handling workplace violence in professional wrestling is crucial, as it will determine whether companies prioritize performer safety or protect valuable assets regardless of their danger to others. As the full scope of Reed's injuries becomes clear and the legal ramifications continue to develop, it's obvious that this assault will have lasting consequences that extend far beyond just these two performers. The courage that Bronson Reed has shown in pursuing justice despite the potential career implications demonstrates his commitment to ensuring that other wrestlers don't suffer similar attacks from unstable colleagues. The transformation of Bron Breakker from promising young talent to dangerous liability serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of identifying and addressing violent tendencies before they escalate to criminal behavior. Your support for accountability and justice in this case is crucial for sending a message that the wrestling community won't tolerate performers who use their physical abilities to genuinely harm and terrorize their colleagues. Share this video to raise awareness about the severity of this assault and the need for real consequences. Comment with your thoughts on what should happen to Breakker, and subscribe to WrestlingNewsCC for continued coverage as this case develops through the legal system. The wrestling industry's response to this incident will determine whether we accept violence against performers as inevitable or demand better protection and accountability for those who cross the line from entertainment into assault.